Article 6A is entitled Mutual Respect. This was a newly negotiated article into our contract in 2009, and basically it comes from the Healthy Workplace Bill or anti-bullying legislation that we're trying to get passed. It talks about mutual respect being an integral and efficient conduct of the Commonwealth's business. So the Commonwealth agrees that it's integral, mutual respect is integral to the efficient conduct of work business. When you're thinking about mutual respect, forget entirely the whole idea of bullying. That word, treat it as though it doesn't exist. Look instead to the concepts of hostile, humiliating, and intimidating behaviors. So totally forget about bullying. Look to the behaviors. You want to definitely make sure that the facts that you gather are from a behavioral perspective. You want to be acting as a behaviorist for this article, because that's where you get the concrete facts that we can all deal with in the grievance process, or as we have discussions with the administration. We have developed a template for a complaint, and this article calls for a complaint, bringing it to the attention of the administration. So there's a template, and any steward should ask their union president for a copy of the template to be used for the complaint form. Abusive language or behaviors need to be defined in observable behavioral terms. And new language to this article was recently negotiated in 2014 to make a change from should raise concerns to employees who believe they are subject to such behavior and who want to pursue the matter shall raise their concerns with an appropriate manager or supervisor. So there's more of an imperative for this article as well. The concerns are through the template are raised with the manager. That should begin an investigation, a thorough investigation. The investigation will result in a decision made by your administration to make changes or not to make changes. If the changes that are being made or being suggested are not to the liking of the complainant can file a step 3 grievance. It goes right to step 3. And new language also says that notice shall be sent concurrently to the agency head or designee of the intent to file a step 3. So there's lots of options along the way for the administration to make changes to the perpetrator of this lack of respect for the member. The other protections in this article are that no discrimination for filing the complaint or for participating in the process shall happen to those folks. And the last thing I wanted to raise is that this is not, the step 3 grievance hearing is the end point. It cannot be arbitrated. We tried to add arbitration into the mix this last round of negotiations, and the administration would not go for it. In my practice and experience, we've not had to use arbitration. Almost all of the cases that we've brought for investigations, the complaints of lack of mutual respect, all have been very successfully handled by the administration. So this has been quite a success since 2009. It also is a lot of work, gathering the facts and helping people to describe things in behavioral terms and to get away from critical kinds of descriptors of behavior. You want to get to the facts in this as much as possible. Let me turn things over to David Young to look at it from the administration's point of view.
Okay. From the administration's point of view, this is a relatively new provision of the collective bargaining agreement. As a manager, I had very little experience with this article. I have much more experience with this article as a representative for the National Association of Government Employees. So excuse me while I wear both my management hat and union hat. First of all, I want to congratulate Mr. Sorensen. It was his diligent efforts that got this provision added to the contract in the first place. This, as Mr. Sorensen says, is often called an anti-bullying provision. Anti-bullying may be a guiding principle, but the article itself deals with hostile, humiliating, or intimidating behavior. It deals with abusive language or behavior. It is not enough to simply say you are being bullied. You must establish by demonstrable and concrete examples how you are being humiliated, intimidated, or subject to hostility, how you have been subject to abusive language or behavior. It is not enough that you have a bad supervisor or a bad manager. It is not enough that a fellow employee and you just do not get along. There must be demonstrable evidence. During my past 2 years with NAGE, we have had success on these complaints ranging from reassignment of a supervisor to mediation to a manager being admonished by the Executive Office of Health and Human Services. However, you as a steward must take a close and critical look at your complainant. For example, I represented an employee on a 6A complaint against her supervisor. NAGE resolved the complaint by negotiating a modified work schedule. And then the employee had a new supervisor and had the same complaint against the new supervisor. The problem was not the supervisor, but the problem was the employee. Management has not gotten it together on this article from my point of view. There is no coordinated and clear way that management investigates and responds to these complaints. Sometimes they are assigned to labor relations, sometimes human resources, sometimes to legal counsel. There is no coordinated response depending on what agency the employee works in. Consequently, these complaints require considerable investment in time, effort, and representation by NAGE. So make sure that you have a substantive, defensible complaint.
Okay, thank you very much, David. And Richard, from a legal perspective, what would you add to this?
There are a couple of things I'd like to say from a legal perspective. One is both Greg and David have made the point, which is an excellent one, which is when you as a steward are investigating a complaint under this article, it is very important that you get specific facts about what the manager or the supervisor is actually doing on a day-to-day or a regular basis with respect to this employee. Just characterizations of what's going on, like the manager's rude, or he doesn't listen to me, or he doesn't understand, isn't really sufficient. And we need specific articulable facts about what's going on. The other thing that is critical, and this is a change from the prior contract, is that in the past, the contract stated that the employee should bring issues under this article to the attention of the supervisor or other person in authority within 90 days of their occurrence. Now the contract has changed, and it states the employee shall bring these events or occurrences to the attention of the manager or supervisor within 90 days. So that means that if somebody waits 4 months before bringing something up, it's too late. So it's very important to keep the timeline in mind when you as a steward are dealing with allegations under this article.
Thank you, Richard.